of the continent in one show.
Many thanks for joining us on Razep Africa this beautiful morning. As usual, we're here to discuss so much across Africa, keeping you abreast with updates that will make you better informed as you go about your day. Well, in the studio, I'm not by myself. I am with Ambassador Dixon Omorige. He is a regular now here on Razep Africa. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Ambassador is the Executive Director of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. And as usual, we are always discussing how we can ensure cultural diplomacy is applied in our relationship with each other, especially across the continent Africa. Again, I welcome you and kudos to the work that you do.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So shortly we'll be joined also by Sadiq, another regular here on the show. Sadiq, have you joined us yet? Hello. Okay, so, well, we would be joined by Sadiq, who would also analyze the African news update this morning. And after that segment, we'll get into Africa cultural diplomacy, how we can ensure unity amongst ourselves. But now we begin in Nigeria, where the government has started evacuating its citizens stranded in Iran as tensions escalate following ongoing Israeli and U.S. airstrikes on Iranian cities. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission says officials from the Nigerian embassy in Tehran are currently escorting citizens who wish to live across the Armenian border, where support teams are stationed to assist evacuees. Authorities say no Nigerian in Iran has been affected by the conflict so far, although government has not disclosed how many Nigerians are living in the country and how many have already been evacuated. The move comes as several countries rush to repatriate their nationals from the region amid the intensifying conflict, which Iranian authorities say has killed more than 1,200 people and injured around 10,000. That's a very unfortunate number right there, but it's unfortunate again to openly, or not unfortunate, I think at this point is disgraceful that the Nigerian government cannot beat their chest to say this is the number of citizens we have in Iran, in Israel, in the U.S., and we are saying it right there. How does that make you feel? But I mean, it's a good thing that we're seeing evacuation efforts happening.
Thank you very much once again. What that implies simply, there is no touch between the government and the citizenry. They have lost touch, so they don't know how many are there. And that is even a far place, even within our domestic place.
Exactly. We have data problems.
But my worry here is that the language that was used, you say, Nigerians who are willing. How can you make it optional for people who are willing when they are in the pit of hell, when the fire is burning?
Well, it's you who thinks like that, because we've also seen instances where Nigerians are in places you and I would think. I remember, was it a Sudan conflict one time? First of all, I didn't know there were that many Nigerians in Sudan at the time, but there was this Sudan conflict that Nigerians said, I remember it was announced that there were some Nigerians who said, you know what, we're too rooted to live. We die here, literally. Like whatever happens, happens. So, and they still reserve the right. The government is just trying to give some sort of support so that for those who need to evacuate, it's easy for them. But there are others who say, you know what, no matter how bad it seems here, it's not as bad as the country you want me to go to. That's another unfortunate trend that we are also seeing. But do you think the language of willing would also determine how many people they pick?
Yes, I emphasize on that. When they say willing, like there are some countries, if such things happen in some other countries like America, they say all Americans are hereby advised and they make provision to evacuate. There's no option. If it's the UK, there are some other countries. So for Nigerians to make it optional shows that the willingness, the effort is pushed, and those guys over there who wants to come back, many would rather say no. Where I'm going is west, so let me remain here. So that is it. So it shows that It shows that they have disconnected from their home. It shows that they are preferred where they are, even if it seems burning. And that should go a long way to tell our government that I think they need to try more.
I mean, we've recorded this over and over again, where we discuss how so much more has to be done to make Africa a destination attractive enough for anyone to stay. I had a conversation with a doctor who's been, working and making Nigeria proud abroad. And every person you discuss, I mean, you are out of the country all the time. Everyone says, absolutely, I want to return to my country. It's better to be in my country, but these are the kind of situations we are presented with. There are no facilities you're not sure of. You are afraid when it comes to security-wise. The infrastructures that will give you the life with dignity is not there. And most concerning is our attitude towards individuals, the lives of individuals. It's almost as if we have become so used to recording several people dead that even when we see some, it doesn't shock us any longer, and there's no sense of urgency to protect or solve crimes and protect lives of citizens. So these are the issues why you see Nigerians everywhere in the world.
Yes, you are correct. You see, if you are talking of coming back home or stability or unity within our environment, which is Africa, which you are focusing right now, there are indices that will encourage you to say, let me come back home or let me remain here. For instance, there are some countries, so many countries, Europe or America, so let us say America, for instance, the cost of a bottle of water for the past 15 years has not actually risen, it has not changed.
It's been $3 every time we travel abroad. It's been $3.
So I want you to imagine how much you bought a bottle of water 10 years ago and now. So you now see that when there is no economic stability, that is the first frustration. Also, you see even bread over there. If they are going to increase the price of bread with some cent, not $1, just maybe 20 cents, or they announce it over and over, and they give reasons. But in our climate here, in our environment, you can go to a shop and buy bread in the morning, and when you go there in the afternoon, the price has changed. You can buy mineral in the morning, when you go there in the evening, the price has changed. So when that stability is not there, and your maybe source of livelihood or your earnings or your salary remains stable.
Are not changing as much as commodities.
People have been receiving the same salary for the past 4 or 5 years. And
commodities are not
the same. So these are all so many discouragements for you to look at coming back home.
Absolutely. But the crisis seems to be worse, and you've heard a lot of allies to not just Iran, but Israel and the US say we were not given a heads up about these strikes to come, and yet you call us allies. That's making it a bit, giving it a sense of urgency, and quite unfortunate. But before we leave this story, what would you say how do you say Africa should position itself as we are facing global crisis, which has not just affected people in the Gulf countries, but also energy prices across the globe? The reason is very simple. In Africa, we tend to focus on ourselves, not the community, not the country. Like this crisis you're talking about, maybe this price shock you're talking about. In some countries, the government will absorb the shock. You won't even know. Until it escalates beyond how it's supposed to be, the citizenry will not feel it. So if, for example, the crisis is going to increase the price of commodities, for instance, the government has a way of absorbing it. But in our climate here, in the environment, they said they increased, for example, the price of oil with about 100 naira or 200 naira. The transporters increased their price with 80%.
So you can see that whatever happens and economically, it affects us seriously because our structure, our environment, our application, the way we apply things here is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So based on that, in every area, there's there problems of dissatisfaction, problems of inequality, the problems of aggression because of what you're experiencing. You're not comfortable, not as convenient environment. Okay, if you want to go further than that, if you are talking of social instance, for example, now, we pay tax. Other clients that pay tax, you see how they utilize their tax. But here we pay tax, we go from bad to worse.
Exactly.
So when you are encouraged to spend, when you are encouraged to pay bills here, one is more frustrated.
Exactly.
One is more discouraged. So these are the things we're passing through.
Absolutely. Well, moving away from that story, attention has been turned to the Central African Republic, where France is attempting to rebuild relations with its former colony after years of strained ties. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has begun a 2-day diplomatic visit to the capital, Bangui. The first by a senior French official in 7 years, signaling Paris' renewed efforts to re-engage with the mineral-rich nation. The visit follows talks last year between French President Emmanuel Macron and Central African President Faustin Archange Touadéra, who has increasingly relied on Russian support in recent years. Russia-linked security forces have gained influence in sectors such as gold, diamonds, and logging. And analysts say France is now seeking to restore its diplomatic and economic presence in the country. Now, this is what we record a lot in Africa. We must have a master, it seems. It's like when one leaves, the other must take over. Sometimes you hear America tell you that if we don't go in there, China will go in there, or Russia will go in there. It's almost as if Africa is out for whoever decides to pick. And yet we have, I would think, with the resources that we enjoy, we should have a leverage enough to stand at, maybe not but to that level, but negotiate from a place of leverage, negotiate like a sovereign nation with leverage with other parts of the country. But we keep recording this. France is trying to reignite ties with the Central Republic of Africa.
Yes, you see, when you say things like this, I'm so happy, but we don't take that advantage seriously. For instance, for France to come back to Bangui or come back to Africa to continue with their relationship shows that Africa is needed, shows that Africa is relevant, shows that Africa has content. Africa has what they need. If they have what they are coming to Africa to explore, they don't need us. However, if you look at it, they too have been able to use our hair to the extent that those,
I like that.
though they need us, they want us to feel that we need them. Mm-hmm. Ordinarily, we don't need them. And what they are doing now is demonstrating that we are still dependent. We are not independent, though we want to celebrate yearly that we are independent in various Africa, across Africa. Right. We are still dependent. Because if actually we know our onions, if actually we know what we are doing, we use our wet, we use what we have to negotiate. And when we negotiate, we will negotiate to our advantage. By extension, we negotiate to the advantage of Africa.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, we no longer need them. And if we don't need them, and we say that they need us, you discover that the idea of migrating, leaving your environment, leaving your country, will become minimal.
Exactly.
It will become minimal. But the same people, the same French that is coming right now, as you're talking about now, when they come in now, they move between a few people who will join them and start exploring at the detriment of their citizens.
Exactly.
That's where the problem is.
I mean, look at what's happening in the Sahel countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. Burkina Faso did not waste time to, literally kick France away out of their country. no to that kind of control that France had held the country by. It seemed like everything had to run through France, even the management of natural resources of this place. And that is the one single reason why a lot of Africans seem to be happy about a coup. No African, having experienced all the civil wars and all that comes with military rule, often would celebrate a coup. But here we are celebrating one because that seems to be the only government that can look France, for instance, in the face and say no. So do you think we can go, other African countries can go the route of Burkina Faso, Mali, without necessarily having a military takeover?
It will be difficult because if there is a coup, it means there are few administrators to take decision. Mm-hmm. The leader can just wake up one day and say, well, this is what I want. And in the next 24 hours, it takes effect. But most countries that practice democracy, you discover that even if you see something that is right, they will tell you they don't want it. And if they don't want it, there's nothing you can do about it. So I think our people that runs democracy should have conscience enough. I've always told my local environment that if somebody is good as a governor or as a president, for instance, and the environment is good, the country is good, nobody will clamor to say, okay, now let it be 1 term or 2 tenor or 3 tenor. No, if things are good, I'm okay. I don't need to see the president.
Exactly.
So today, if you look at it, people want to have connection. They want to have access to the governor. They want to have connection. They want to have access to the president. They want to have access to high-profile personalities. Why? For us to have some chunk of what they desire. But if the administration is actually okay, things are being done the way it's supposed to be. I don't need to have connection before my children are employed. I don't need to have connection before my children go to certain school. I don't need to be so connected before I can eat the type of food I want to eat. I don't need connection before I'm secured. I tell you, whoever that wants to be in power can remain there as long as it's okay.
Yes, I mean, you may not necessarily remain there, per se. Even you would not want that kind of stress of remaining in power, because you also want to relax and enjoy life like your citizens are. However, I think the need for power often isn't even about money. If we ever get to that society where there's dividends of democracy for the people, there's development, there's economic boom, one that makes the citizens not on survival mode all the time, but there is a stability in the economy. We would have leaders who are there to serve, who really want the improvement of society, and not ones who are on survival mode like the rest of us, and they want to just be able to secure a life for their children, which is what we keep seeing in our leadership process.
You are very correct. I want you to also understand that in Africa, the clamor for leadership position is clamor to a man's weight.
Unfortunately,
not actually to serve.
But that's because you and I have made political leadership so attractive.
Yes.
The allowances are doubled. Every other sector could be owed salary. When have you heard that? Public office holders are owed salary.
I wish the attraction, I wish they are satisfied with the attraction that is given to them as political office holders. They are still not even satisfied. In Africa, most of our leaders, unfortunately, they steal, because they take what does not belong to them, and to make the bad matter worse, they steal what they do not need. If you are hungry, you get some food and you eat. You are in need of 1 or 2 things, you get it. It's not bad, but to Africans, they will steal and amass money. You discover that they don't know how much they have. One of the prime ministers in the UK, when he was done, he relocated back to his two-bedroom flat. He went back to his 2-bedroom flat. But you can't even see a local government chairman in Nigeria that will round up his session and go and stay in 3 bedrooms. It's not possible.
Oh, I mean, we saw, was it an Australian legislator going to work with his bicycle, and he was greeting a constituent and greeting his people as he was going, and it was a Nigerian that took the video to say, this right here is the head of the legislative, the parliament in Australia, and he's happily going with his bicycle, no security, and
you're right. I also wanted to know, see, most of these things we are doing here is not actually giving us comfort. It's not making us fulfill, because most people today who are stealing the way to their constituency, they cannot go to Wuse Market anyhow without aids. They can't go there and they are hungry, they buy bottled water and eat. They can't be there and they buy food and eat because they are scared, because of what they have done, because they have impoverished so many people in their constituency.
Right.
But under normal circumstances, if you are asked to represent constituency or your community, you are supposed to represent their interests financially, in all areas, so that they will be happy. But today, there's usually heavy iron doors, and in their offices, you cannot have access to them.
Bulletproof vehicles that Nigerian tax payers pay for with absolute brazenness, because we keep recording this. I remember when the conversation of how expensive the vehicles that was allocated to them, it was bulletproof, it was high end, and I remember they were having a conversation of, why don't you show the trend of using Nigerian made vehicles? And they tell you that the Nigerian-made vehicles was not equipped enough. Unfortunately, that was actually a statement. That was not equipped enough for the bad roads that were in their constituents. So they can't even visit their constituents with some of these vehicles. So they needed these armored, bulletproof vehicles that is foreign, that is about 200 million at the time, to be able to access their communities. These are lawmakers who should make laws and ensure that these communities are motorable. I'm telling you, instead of fixing that, we will use the 200 million to buy vehicles for ourselves to be able to access those constituents.
And whatever they buy, even if they are using helicopter or using private jet or whatever, it does not give them comfort, it does not give them fulfillment.
Exactly.
It does not give them comfort, it does not give them fulfillment. Because they cannot sleep well, because their constituents are not asleep.
True. True. And it's a ripple effect. If you provide security for your constituents, if you provide water, if you provide energy, if you provide empowerment that is impactful to your constituents, you will pass and nobody will know you have passed. But they don't want that. They want the hailing. Oh, he's passing, so that the hailing it's security.
And give them stipends.
Political point, not just for the stipends, but when people gather, they post it on their social media, and it reflects in some way to be acceptance. But why are your people so unemployed that they could leave their stores or they could leave whatever they were doing to come hail you because you're passing?
They have to do it for them to survive, because that hailing will attract some stipends.
I mean, for the people, I understand.
Yes.
Because they are impoverished,
yes,
and they know that a bag of rice with a plastered face of this politician would mean something for their family, and so they hustle for it. I get it. But for the politician, or for commentators like us, when I see how you're driving past and people are all over you, begging you for what they can get, you have failed in my eye. Because if your people are still begging for stipends, you have failed.
Obviously, they have failed, and they need the failure. They need that failure for them to remain in power.
Absolutely.
They need that failure. And one of the things that kept them in office is after 4 years, they go back to them again and give them...
Unfortunately. But we leave that story right there to move right to the eastern part of Africa, where Uganda has just announced a new visa policy allowing citizens from 40 countries to enter the country without a visa for up to 3 months for tourism or business. The measure is aimed at strengthening regional integration and encouraging trade tourism, and people-to-people exchanges. Most African nations are included in the visa-free arrangement alongside several countries from the Caribbean and Asia. However, the United States, the United Kingdom, and European Union member states have been excluded. The move follows Washington's recent decision to impose stricter visa rules on Ugandan travelers, including a $15,000 bond requirement and reduced visa validity. Way to go, Uganda, way to go, Uganda, I must say, because that was the response I wanted from African countries. Let's make let's improve natural integration within the continent. We had this conversation some time ago. I can't remember if it was on air here or when we were having private conversations, but we need to improve access to fellow Africans, and Uganda is setting the pace here. I know that Rwanda had done that, and we have some African countries that have visa-free policies for the African brothers.
You see, kudos to Uganda and the president. What they did is just they gave a bluff to the US and to the UK.
Exactly, in your face, literally. In your face. And this was the response I wanted, because we could have been, there could have been pushed, or rather, because that's what a lot of Africans would do. They could have been felt that this was an opportunity to now, COA and give America some sort of visa-free to maybe change their minds. But I am happy that it is reciprocatory.
Yes. You see, as I said, congratulations to Ugandans. What this is describing is they are growing from dependency to becoming gradually independent. Mm-hmm. Now, you should also look at it. For them to boldly do this to their face shows that they are ready, whatever consequences.
Uganda had stopped aid. Uganda had said, you remember we had that conversation?
Yeah.
Uganda had said reduced aid from about 80% to just 20%, and said we are going to be self-reliant. Uganda is is working on its regulatory policies within the oil sector, and there's a port, and Uganda is doing a lot.
Which is very, very good. So what they have done, and it's good. And you see, I love that when they said they want to improve their tourism. Coming back home to Nigeria, Nigeria remains the best country in the world. I usually say it. Nigeria remains the best country in the world. If you come to my office today, we have some minerals that have been displaced. The kind of minerals that we have in Nigeria is needed globally, and that can keep our country floating economically. Also, we have various places across the country that are tourist attractions. What the government needs to do is to improve on them. I saw something recently on the social media. They said this is the house where decision was taken, where Nigeria was born, something like that, in Ecotech Mene, somewhere in Akwa Ibom, where they sat, and the former president or prime minister, I don't know then, they said this is where Nigeria was born. What that simply means is that place is supposed to have been a tourist center, monument center, a place where people will fly from across the world and visit.
Absolutely.
It was there the slaves were being exported.
Exactly.
So this we have so many.
I saw how dilapidated it looked. In other countries, it is going to be a harbor that not just for tourism, but also just to preserve a bit of our history. But it's dilapidated. And
if you give money, it will make money. I look at it in Buckingham Palace sometime. I told some about 5-6 years ago. They said, well, the palace needs money. What they do, they increase the tourism rate there.
Exactly.
So that people can come in and pay stipends and have access to the palace. So here in Nigeria, look, if we are actually working on our tourism site, if we actually work on our tourism potentials in Nigeria, that is enough crude oil money.
Exactly. if we have, like you said, but quickly we just run by the other story so that we could also have that conversation that we talked about. We're turning now to North Africa, where Morocco says it is preparing plans to repatriate its nationals who travel to Syria and Iraq to fight for the Islamic State group and are currently being held in detention. The move comes after the United States transferred thousands of captured ISIS fighters from Syria into Iraqi custody earlier this year. Moroccan officials say the plan will take into action the complex position of those affected, including fighters, women who lived in militant camps, and hundreds of children. Authorities estimate that more than 1,600 Moroccan nationals joined jihadist groups abroad, with many now detained or still living in camps in the northeastern part of Syria. That's unfortunate. I mean, it seems like when there's international conflict, you see Africans quick to join. But I wonder how this is going to play out if the Moroccan government is able to repatriate these nationals into their country. Is this not trouble for them if they were fighting for a terror group in Syria?
Yes, I'm sure before they will take that decision, they have thought of it pros and cons to see that it will be favorable to them. But first of all, for them to have that nationalistic decision, let us bring our people back home, is good conscience.
Yes, absolutely.
But whether their people are good or bad becomes secondary. These are government that have a conscience, that who wants their people wherever they are, not for them to be tortured, but they want their people back home. So these are the things we are talking. As Africans, we should try as much as possible to take census of our people, to know what they are doing, know wherever they are. If it is necessary, we bring them back home. So having that mind, having that decision to bring their people, repatriate their people back, I think that's the first thing. But whether they are going to be good to them when they come back home becomes a story for another day.
Different thing.
Yes.
That's good. In neighboring South Africa, an unexpected migration trend is emerging as thousands of white South Africans return home after years of living abroad. The shift follows the repeal of the 1995 law that stripped some expatriates of their South African citizenship, allowing many to reclaim their nationality through a new government portal. Analysts say several factors are encouraging the return, including improved infrastructure, reduced power outages, and the rise of remote work opportunities. Some returnees also cite safety concerns and political tensions in countries such as the United States, where immigration enforcement and gun violence have become growing worries. Who knew there would ever come a time Africa will be the destination against countries like the United States? They are leaving because like they said, gun violence and the strict immigration that's going on in America at the moment. But it's interesting to see this, especially because the President of the United States has been speaking for the white South Africans. He started a narrative that they were being marginalized and being murdered in South Africa. So it's good to see that that's not a worry for those that are being spoken for. It's funny.
Africa has always been a place to be. I've always said it. Considering our weather, considering our bloodline, the way we think, the way we are compassionate is different from the north.
Absolutely.
So those people who want to come back to South Africa, they want to retrace their route. Now it is also a confirmation that they have no satisfaction where they are.
True.
If they were satisfied, they would have said, okay, let us remain there.
True.
But coming back home, they see South Africa safer, they see South Africa more accommodating, they see the environment more friendly.
And like they said, remote job opportunities is one of the reasons why they don't mind returning. And that's beautiful to hear.
That is it. All kudos to Africa's soil. However, it is our sincere prayer and wish that those who does not want Africa to be flourishing economically, that God should just intervene so that God begin to separate the one after the other so that we can begin to enjoy our Africa, which we love so much.
Amen. And rounding off the updates in Libya, Prime Minister Abdulhamid Deiban has reshuffled his government in what he described as an effort to improve public service and strengthen state institutions. The cabinet changes see about 10 of the country's 27 ministers replaced, although Deiba will continue to serve as both defense and foreign affairs minister. Libya has struggled to achieve political stability since the fall of former leader Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, and the country remains divided between rival administrations in Tripoli and eastern city of Benghazi. The Prime Minister says the reshuffle is intended to overcome regional tensions and accelerate the delivery of service to citizens. Political stability right there is what we have been praying for in Libya, and I'm happy that it's for once being achieved. It was unfortunate that we're recording so many conflicts since 2011 when Muammar Gaddafi was lynched, was killed in that conflict right there. But this gives me joy.
Yes, thank God succor is coming. Thank God peace is growing. There will always be tension, there will always be crisis, even within the family, husband, wife, children, there will always be misunderstanding. But I'm sure the gap of misunderstanding is getting closer. And that is why they cannot talk like this. Absolutely. Also, if you look at the same cabinet reshuffle, and I love the word they use there, to improve public services. And to strengthen state institutions. Absolutely. Which is needed. When the state institutions are strengthened, the country begins to run what is called autopilot.
Exactly.
No more preference to one another, to your brothers, sisters, friends, or associates. Things begin to run normally. Whoever has contravened will bear the consequence, and whoever has also done well will also be appreciated and applauded. So when I heard that, I said, well, this is good. So to strengthen institutions, when institutions are strengthened, it is no longer a one-man affair.
Absolutely.
When institutions are strengthened, the people look onto it. People trust it. Every country, they want to trust their institutions. Absolutely. When the institution is trusted, you run to that institution whenever you need the service of that institution. So whatever institution suggests, whatever it brings about, you take it in good faith because you trusted it.
True. It's time to go for a short break right now. We have come to the end of the African News Update. When we return, we'll get into that conversation of the unity of Africa, how we can all put our hands together, put it on deck, and ensure that together we are fighting to ensure Africans live a better, more dignified life. We'll be back shortly to discuss that. Stay with us.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline,